That was step 1, data inflow. Now we've got the data in the toolbox. Let's validate it and make sure that all the data that we report to AQS is good, and check out all those flagged files that we imported. That is step 2, final data validation. You press that button and it brings up this. And this screen looks complicated, but just like the other screens, just look at the area that pertains to the data you're looking at. In this case, this is continuous monitoring pollutant data. We only have one site, so that site ID populates, and then sampler ID, that's the only sampler at that site. Pollutant, PM2.5 continuous, is the only pollutant at that site, and 2017 is the only year for which we have data. Then it automatically populates this box with the beginning and ending of the date range of the data within the range that you selected. And you can see that it shows up here on screen. And you remember we flagged a lot of data for HD50 flags, where the PM2.5 concentration varied by more than 50 micrograms per cubic meter in an hour. And we've got lots of very negative values here because we still have to go through this data and see if, unfortunately, there's any good data in this data set at all. So when we validate the data, the yellow dots will come off of the data points if we've decided that they're valid. So the yellow dots just show data points that we've flagged so that we can see where they are in context with all the other data. So just to take a look at this data, and it's only 2 weeks worth, so it's viewable in table form. Let's click View All Data and manually add flags to Invalidate. So when we click that, our data comes up in table form, and you can see that all the rows that have flags are in yellow, and that helps us more easily identify them. Now in this case, we do have some values that seem on the face of it like they would be good, even though they're surrounded by bad data. So just for the purposes of demonstration, let's say you were going to keep these data and report them to AQS, but you wanted to invalidate all the other data where you had HD50 flags, because that's super unlikely unless you have other data that show like there was a big wind gust or a haboob or construction or some sort of phenomenon that caused super high PM2.5 concentrations. So when you scroll down, you can see pretty much 2/3 of the data are flagged. So we're not going to go through and manually invalidate them. If you did want to do that, the way to do that would be to click in the row with, for example, this data point that we want to invalidate. And because we're not really sure what's going on with our equipment at this point, we're going to classify it as miscellaneous void. And now this row appears in gray because we will not be reporting this to AQS. This row will be reported to AQS, but this value of 209 will be replaced by this AQS null code. So it's good if you've got data to report to AQS, and even if some of it is invalid, it's good to report it because it shows that you were monitoring, and if you pick the right code, you can have a good reason. For example, you are calibrating the piece of equipment, why that record or hour of data is not being reported. So we're going to leave this miscellaneous void for now. We're going to click the lower X, and what we're going to do now is we're going to invalidate only the qualified data in the selected range. And because we want to attach the same AQS code, miscellaneous void, to all of them, we're going to just select that here and then click invalidate only qualified data in selected range. Remember, qualified just means flagged. So click that, and then it says, yes, this means that when you report this data to AQS, this code will be in replace of the value for this hour. Is this what you want? Yes, we do. And we want to modify data, and we're seeing 244 rows are going to be invalidated with the AQS invalidation code AM. So click yes, and now you can see our graph just has the data that we've deemed are good, and for purposes of demonstration we're just going to leave this like this, although I would definitely check out some of these higher concentrations if this were real data. So now we have done that, and we can exit the form. The next step is reports and charts, and this data set doesn't show up well in reports and charts because there's so little data. So what we're going to do for now is skip reports and charts and go on to AQS file creation.